Hey everybody, welcome to the Slick Tree Podcast. I'm your host, Colby Langford. The point of this show is to help improve ourselves as dogmen and to raise the quality of the dogs on the end of our lead. So let's settle in, turn the volume up, and let's see if we can't learn a trick or two together from our guests. Hey everybody, you are listening to the Slick Tree Podcast. I'm your host, Colby Langford, and today I'm sitting here with my buddy, Kenny Nordyke. How you doing today, Kenny?
I'm doing fine, thank you, sir.
Yeah, we're up here in southeast Kansas. I made the relatively short drive over to come say hi to Kenny, and brought a couple dogs with me, and we went out and did a little bit of hunted with one of Kenny's dogs, and I brought a little Jip up that Kenny's going to mess with a little bit for me, and brought my cray dog, and we got to look at some squirrels and get some shot out.
Yep. I had a real enjoyable afternoon.
Yep. There's I always enjoy the Fox Squirrels up here. They don't. I'm used to every squirrel I tree just about around the house. I got to chase it 100 yards before it stops for long enough to shoot it.
Well, they're a little easier to keep up with, and they're a lot bigger target. I will say
They are
that.
a lot bigger target.
And as you get older, and my eyesight's getting worse, I could probably use something the size of a football up there. To be right honest with you.
Yeah. You ever weigh any of them Fox Squirrels?
I have not.
We ought to weigh one or two of them. Them suckers are big. I guarantee you they're 2-pounders.
I've got a set of scales right there. The wife's already on her way to get them.
Yep.
So.
But no, did you tree very many grays up here?
Not very many. I might see 4 or 5 in a year. You know, they're just not that many as compared to the fox squirrels. That's mostly what I see around here. A little further south, they start getting more prevalent down that way.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we're about the opposite. I got a few more fox squirrels, but some of the pecan orchards and stuff I hunt. But most of what I'm chasing after those flighty little grays, and they're fun to hunt. But man, when they're not setting, they're not setting.
Right.
But, well, I've known Kenny for a pretty good while now. I was trying to think how we even ended up getting mad. I guess it was probably somebody put on a. One of you guys put on a squirrel hunt. I don't know how long ago it's been now.
Yeah.
But you guys were putting on kind of some buddy style meat hunts.
Right. Yeah, we started out. I think actually you and I had met before, but we was hunting over in northeast of me about 20 miles, and we had a little club started over there. We was trying to get going, and it was just a bunch of us guys got together and having a good time. And you came up, you was asking about that squirrel weight. How about 1.955?
I was close on the 2-pound mark.
You was pretty close. But anyway, we went to that hunt, but prior to that, I'd met you. I'd gotten into this and was wanting a squirrel dog or something I could hunt. I was in an accident years ago, and I'll go into that a little more later. But anyway, I'd met you, and you actually brought a dog up here for me to try, and the stroker dog, and ended up with him and really enjoyed him and had a good time. And that's kind of where I got started with as far as the first dog I ever had that thought he'd go tree his own squirrel. And I played with a lot of them prior to that just didn't make it, and I was kind of getting discouraged. And then I don't remember who told me to get in touch with you, and we got together, and that's how we met. And that's probably been, I'd say probably been 8-9 years ago, if not more.
Probably so.
Probably more.
Trying to think.
Yeah, because I've lived here 7 years, and I was at the other place 3 years probably before that.
Yep.
So I'd say good 10 years.
Yeah,
solid.
that's I was thinking it was about 10.
Yep.
But well, tell us a little bit more about yourself as far as just who Kenny is.
Well, I started off hunting when I was a kid. I know that was one thing you want to know, what a little bit of background. And we lived up in Missouri over here in eastern Missouri, and Osage River bottoms. And at 5 years old, I remember my dad taking me coon hunting a lot. We coon hunted when I was a kid, and remember many nights that he'd carry me because I got too wore out when I was 5 years old to keep up. And I also remember many nights I think he just got tired of messing with me and built a fire and said, "I'll be back for you." and we'd go listen to hounds, and had what I thought was a pretty nice blue tick hound that done a good job for us. And anyway, we hunted him when I was a kid and just kind of stayed involved in it and everything like that until I got older. And I've always had hounds, and then I've always had a beagle or two running around until the last few years. And anyway, had a lot of fun with that. Done a little bird hunting, trained some bird dogs for some people and myself, and got into duck hunting, trained a few duck dogs and stuff. And a lot of work goes in there, and a lot of hours and things, and just I enjoy the dogs. Probably, I don't know if I need to be saying this, but I probably like my dogs and things a lot better than I like a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, seem to get along a little better. But anyway, yeah, that's kind of where it all began, was back when I was a kid with Dad and growing up through my teenage years and whatnot with what most people would consider trash dogs. I had a Walker dog. I don't know if he ever treed a coon, but he sure treed a pile of possums for me. And as a kid, I didn't mind that. I was just out hunting. And then it kind of went on, like I said, got into the bird dogs and got into the beagles, done a little field trialing with the beagles, and was pretty successful. And then, you know, later in years, I got in an accident, and that's what I was going to tell you about. I know you know about my legs not working great, and I've always been a comedian, or so I think. And I got an uncle a little jumpy, to say the least, and I seen him one night at a store, and he had a dog box in the back of a Ford Ranger, and it was so big you couldn't see the back of the cab. And I thought, I'll sneak up on him. I was going coon hunting. I thought, I'll sneak up on him, and I'll slam my fist on top of that dog box, and he'll just fan the daylights out of that steering wheel. And well, the joke was on me. I went to get on that truck, and he was taking off, and I made a jump for the truck, and he caught another gear, and I didn't. And I missed that bumper on that truck and ended up messing up both my legs and took bone fragments and chips out of them. And so my mobility is limited. And, you know, I loved coon hunting and everything, and I hated to give it up, but I realized then, after some operations and stuff, that I just wasn't going to be able to keep up with a good quality dog. So I got talking around, and I was really depressed. And I had a buddy told me, he said, you need to look about getting a cur dog. And he said, go to squirrel hunting and coon hunting. He said, they'll stay with you. And he said, they'll hunt back to you, and you don't have to chase them a mile and a half. And, you know, you ought to get your cur dog. And I said, oh, I ain't going to get no cur dog. I said, what the heck would you want a cur dog for? Oh, he said, they're nice to hound. And I said, and I didn't understand what a cur dog was. Mm-hmm. You know, I thought a cur dog meant that Fred's dog over here on the farm crossed up with Julie's dog down here in town and throwed some mutts, and that was a cur. And so that's what I thought a cur was. And I didn't really realize it was a breed. So the more I got to quizzing about it, and a guy I said, well, where did I find one of these things at? And I'd never seen one. And a guy said, well, go see a fellow by the name of Robert Ray. Said, I think he's got one that you know, would be good for you to start with. So that's what I did. And I enjoyed messing with him. I can't tell you who was a squirrel dog, but he'd treat one here and there. And I think he treated one coon for me during the time I had him. And I thought, well, maybe I ought to try to get something a little better. That's when you and Stroker come into the program, and I hunted Stroker probably 3 years and enjoyed him, you know.
I'm gonna jump in right there and tell you, which I believe I was totally honest with you on him. Mm-hmm. And he hadn't really treed much. Mm-hmm. And I brought him up here, and we threw him out in front of the buggy.
Yeah.
And drove him around, and he looked like a totally different dog than he ever had before.
Yeah. Yeah.
He went to treeing squirrels that day, that minute that we put him out on the ground in front of you.
Yeah. Oh, that's good right there.
Yep. I think I traded you a trailer for that.
Yeah, you did.
For that dog. But yeah.
Yeah, I got him, and I hunted him 2 or 3 days in a row after that, and boy, I was fired up. It was on, and he looked good. I treed squirrels with him, knocked squirrels out, and I was excited. And then I took him out, I don't know, fourth or fifth time, and he wouldn't hunt. And I mean, just would not hunt. And I worked and worked and worked with him and tried to get him going. He just flat would not hunt. And that went on about 4 or 5 trips. And I think I might have called you, and I told you, Colby, I don't know what's going on. I can't get him to hunt. And you said, I'll just keep taking him. And I said, okay. And I said, well, I'm going to. So I don't know. I hunted him several more times, or tried to. And then one day something clicked, and he took off again, and he was just gangbusters from there on. And matter of fact, that hunt that we was talking about over here, the little club hunt, I just had surgery on my first leg that I had surgery on, and I wasn't able to hunt him, but I wanted to put him in that hunt. And a friend of mine said, I'll hunt him for you. And actually won that hunt. I ain't bragging about that, because to me, winning a hunt on circle hunts, nobody else seen a squirrel. He had a den or a nest or something, I don't remember. Nobody else's dogs treed that day and didn't do nothing. He won that hunt, and I felt so bad about that, because to me, in my mind, you need to see the meat. And honestly, the trophy that they gave away is still sitting at the clubhouse, because I wouldn't take it home. I said, nah, I don't like that much. I said, if he earns it all, I'd be interested. And but anyway, I kept hunting him for a few years, and then I got a little tiny feist dog, and I named her Tiny, and I started road hunting. And I drive some fields and stuff. You know, farmers are. I got a lot of good friends and acquaintances that let me go where I want, and as long as you ain't in crops, they don't get excited or nothing. And I started kind of following them around with side by side, and got to where they'd treat quite a few squirrels and stuff and coons, and started having a good time with that. And Tiny was a really nice little dog. She weighed about 20 pounds and quick, and she got hit by lightning, of all things. And so that kind of broke my heart, and I kind of took a step back for a little bit. And I thought, well, I want to keep this up. I'll back up a minute to the coon dogs before I got into these curs and the feist and stuff. I decided that my legs was well enough I might be able to hunt one. And I went off over in Missouri, and I bought me a really nice young Walker Jip. And I went hunting with some friends, and they got in a half-mile deep, and they treed. And of course, with nowadays electronics, you can tell just about where they're at and everything. I thought there's a big den tree right there. It was a half-mile in, so there was 3 of us going to go in there, and them young men took off in there. And of course, I was trying to keep up, and I couldn't keep up with them, and I was holding them back, and I kind of started feeling bad about it. And I finally told them, I said, you guys go ahead and go to the tree. And I said, I'll be there eventually. I said, don't worry about me. I said, I'll get there. Well, I met them on the way out. They was coming out, and I was still going in. And they said, well, it's a big den tree. Well, then they stood around there and waited on me to kind of keep up and this and that. And I was really burning up a lot of their hunt. I told them, I said, guys, go. I said, I'll find you. I'll call you. I said, when I get back to the truck, I'll call you. Then I'll come get with you, and we'll go again. I said, but go cut your dogs. So they finally reluctantly went back to the truck. And I realized on the way back to the truck, I wasn't going to be able to coon hunt no more. It was over. And I miss it. I really do. I miss listening to the hounds. And so anyway, sorry, I'm getting emotional.
Oh, you're all right.
But anyway, that's how the cur dog thing come around, and they've been a blessing. I really enjoyed them. Not much mouth on the ground, but boy, when they hit and they're barking your treat most of the time. And had a lot of fun. I'm able to drive along and road hunt them, and I really enjoyed road hunting. I take my wife with me. I've got a wonderful wife, and she hunts with me a lot. If you tell her let's go hunting or fishing, you better not be standing in the door, because she's going to run over you going to the boat or the truck, one of the two. So anyway, just very blessed with all the things that went on. And honestly, I spent money on dogs, and not a bunch because I ain't got a bunch, but never did want to aspire to be a rich man. I just wanted to be comfortable and do things in life that I enjoyed. And the good Lord's blessed me. And anyway, the best dog I've ever owned has been a free dog. And it was a dog that I turned down multiple times. My buddy Steve Trimble, you know him, he kept telling me, he said, Kenny, there's this dog, this cur dog over here, you need to get her. I said, she's free if you want her. And said, he's a good friend of mine's got her. Said, he's got a pair of them, brother and sister. He said, you need her. And I wouldn't take her. It's my Maggie dog, and I wouldn't take her and wouldn't take her. And I wouldn't have took her if I knew what she was. And anyway, he finally was talking to me one night on the phone and trying to get me to go get this dog or take this dog. And my wife was, and I had her on speakerphone, she could hear it. And my wife said, oh, what's one more dog? Well, now I had like 8 dogs at the time. I thought, one more dog is way too many, 7 more than I need probably. So anyway, I said, all right. I said, I'll take her, give her a chance. So he brought her, and I started hunting her, and she'd treat a few squirrels here and there, and the more I hunted her, the better she got. And the better she got, the more I enjoyed it. And then she got the handle on her, and I can just whistle at her or holler at her, and she'll turn and come to me. Or if I don't want her to go to the west, I can holler at her and send her east and follow her with my little side-by-side. And I couldn't tell you. I don't think that side-by-side or maybe my small pickup would hold everything I've treated with her in the last 5 or 6 years. She's getting a little age on her now, but she sure had been an enjoyable dog. But, yeah, if it wouldn't been for Steve Trimble, I certainly wouldn't have had her. And everybody in the country talked about wanting to raise pups out of her and this and that. I said, no, we ain't going to do that. I said, she's fixed. She's been spaded, house broke, crate trained, rides in the back seat of vehicles, and everything. And it's just a nice lap dog. Matter of fact, she's laying right over here after the day's hunt in my recliner. But anyway, yeah, this pleasure hunting. I'm not no competition hunter.
What kind of dog is she?
Well, she's half cur, and here's the part I wouldn't have took. She's half Patterdale.
Yeah.
And she looks like a little brown feist, and you never really see the Patterdale side in her until she gets into it with a coon. And if she gets on a coon, you'll see them big old brown eyes just roll back, and she locks down, and it's game on. And it ain't over till it's over. But, I would have passed her up just because of that. I never thought she'd be a squirrel dog, and my gosh, what a dog she is.
She looked just fine today. She ran in there.
Thank you.
Went to train them. You could tell she's a nice little road dog for sure.
Oh,
She'd be run from the buggy good ways, and then all of a sudden you'd see her kind of perk that head up a little bit and going to I guess you'd call it Tigger mode.
Yeah, that bouncing and hopping. Yep.
Yeah, and you could pretty well bet she's going to be treated directly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she does a pretty good job, and she uses her nose and her eyes and her ears. She uses every faculty she's got about her, and she wins a lot of squirrels for me when it's dry like it is now. This is tough. And her and Cray today hunted together, and we hunted them both out there, and they both done really well. And that's tough when a dog can pull one out when it's just dusty and dry. Midday, yeah. And so a lot of fun. But I've got some more prospects coming on, and I got one that you're going to hunt for me for a while, and I'm going to work on yours and see if I can get you a road hunting dog, and you can see if I've got something that'll make a competition dog. And now I just got to find me a competition hunter that knows what they're doing, because I certainly don't. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well, what other dogs you got out here? Tell us about what kind of dogs you're hunting.
Well, I got a little Mullen Spice that belongs to the wife, and my wife's got a heart as big as a house. And anytime she sees a dog that ain't treated right or something, they come here. They got the life of Riley. You can see that from them laying around on the couches and pet door, and they come in and out and whatnot. And anyway, had a gentleman call me one night, and he said, hey, I got a squirrel dog up here you need. And I said, no. I said, I got 8 or 9 now. I said, no squirrel dogs but one. I said, a lot of prospects. I said, I don't think I need another one. And he said, well, I got a little yellow female up here. He said, the gentleman owned her, said she's just 6 months old and said he was involved in a motorcycle accident and is no longer with us. And he said his brother don't want to keep her, dad can't keep her, so he said he'll give her away. And he said she's pretty timid. I said, well, I don't need her. And of course the wife said, oh, nobody wants her. Let's go get her. So we went and got her. And for about 6 months, she was like a coyote. I couldn't touch her. I couldn't get around her. She loved the wife after just a short period of time. And I think I told you I come in one morning, was going to put her outside, and she was laying on the couch, and I went over and she was scared. She wasn't mean. She was scared, and I just reached down to pick her up, and she bit me. And so that's kind of the way she was. Well, now she's all over me, and she's 3 years old, and she just runs like the thunder and does a good job, makes a lot of trees. Not the best tree dog I've ever owned, but she's getting there. She'll make it, and let's put it that way. And so I got her, and she's an original Mullins bred female. And I talked to Mr. Mullins one night for a good hour on the phone. Just the nicest guys you'd ever want to meet. Mm-hmm. And told him, about her and this and that and what to expect. And he told me how he got to where he was at with them and this and that. And so I enjoyed that. And then I've also got some little feist dogs that I come up with. And I don't know, they're probably around 15 to 18 pounds. They're little. And I've got one that we raised from a pup. It was an accidental cross, and I got him and his sister. And his sister's my lap dog, and she'll tree the daylights out of squirrels, hunting out that buggy and sight treeing and stuff. Just a lot of fun to play with. And but now he'll flat go hunting. He's quick and everything, and so got him, and recently bought a dog out of Arkansas. A buddy of mine brought him up here, and we went hunting. And I don't think he'd been hunted that much. I know he'd been in the starting pen. And the dog really looked good for his age. He's 10 months old. And he went with Maggie and went with my buddy's hound, and we treed squirrels. And he got off by himself quite a bit, which pretty well impressed me that he would get off by himself. And he pretty soon he was treed. And we got down there, and sure enough, he had the squirrel. And I told my buddy, I said, don't get rid of that dog. I said, that's something I think is going to be special. And I said, as big a motor as he's got, and he's got a really nice mouth and his size, I said, he might make a competition dog. I said, I don't know nothing about that competition hunting, but if I know anything at all, I think he might fit the ticket. So we talked about it. No, he wasn't going to ever get rid of him. Well, within 4 hours, he decided that maybe he might get rid of him. And I was afraid that he was going to sell him to another buddy of mine. And I thought, man, they just ain't going to do this dog no justice, Nothing against the guys at all. But you got to stick with them dogs long enough to give them an opportunity. Mm-hmm. And so I finally told him, I said, why don't you just sell me that dog? He said, why don't you just go in partners with me on him? I said, no. I said, I don't like co-owning nothing. I said, that never turns out good that I know of. I said, maybe it does, but I said, to me, look like somebody'd be upset. And I said, there ain't never been a dog made that's worth friendship. So I said, I'm out on that. So, again, my wife, she was out there listening to all that, and she stomped her foot. And she said, no more dogs. And I laughed, and I said, oh, well, we'll see how that goes for you. And she laughed, Well, we come back in the house, and I no more got in the house, and the first thing out of her mouth was, what do you think he'd have to buy that dog? I said, it'd be more than I want to spend right now. I said, I got too much other stuff going on. She said, well, I think you need to look about it. So I called him. I said, what do you take for that dog? And he told me. I said, I think I'll just buy him. Now, when he comes here and he earns his keep, he'll die here of old age. Unless something freak accident would happen. I don't get rid of very many, and if I do, most time I give them away. Young kids want something. If I got something that might chase a squirrel or might chase a house cat or something that I don't think is what I want, most time I'll just give them away. And so I bought the dog, but he's a nice dog, and he's got some pretty impressive bloodline behind him, and got a big motor and big mouth and nice tree dog. He's loud. He just needs some time in the woods, and he needs to be with somebody that's capable of walking, after this deal with my legs. And I don't, I can walk a quarter mile, but, you'll be there in a couple minutes. I'll be there in about half an hour maybe. And so that's kind of what I've got out there that right now is kind of conglomeration of everything. If it'll run and tree a squirrel, it don't matter to me what it is. I got a chihuahua laying right over there. I guarantee you. If you come up here in the daytime and she's out in that backyard, that big oak tree, and there's a squirrel out there, she's going to be treed right along with the rest of them. So it's just a lot of fun messing with the dogs. And I'm certainly not no professional. I certainly don't know everything in the world. I'm 63 years old, just retired, and I've certainly got a whole lot of life ahead of me and a lot of learning. When you stop learning, they just will put you in a box. You're done. So that's kind of where I'm at with my hunting and my dogs and whatnot like that at this point in time.
Well, let's kind of talk about your kind of the general area. We mentioned your southeast Kansas. Just talk a little bit about kind of go a little bit more into the type of timber and just kind of the train and kind of how you expect your dogs to hunt for you, what you want them to do, and kind of how just the general way you hunt, because it's
sure.
I interview a lot of people on here that are really big into competition style dogs that are going to get gone, go yonder, and be totally far away from everything else and
right.
be independent. And that's really not. I don't know that that's really the majority of people that are out there squirrel hunting.
Sure.
And probably listen to this podcast. And I think you're probably the way you hunt's probably a lot more relatable to most of the people that listen to this than maybe somebody that's going hauling to a NSD or USDC hunt every weekend of the year.
Sure. So what I like to do is I've got a foundation dog, I call it. Let's just say it that way. Something that'll run and tree squirrels that will road hunt for me, and I want that dog, and I'll put a young dog with it, and that's how I start my young dogs. Well, I want that dog to be in front of my side-by-side, and I hunt a lot of country roads up here. Like I said, there's not a whole lot of traffic on them. First thing I do is get an extremely good handle on them, because if I see a car coming, all I got to do is whistle, or if I need to, I can tone one, and I don't hardly ever have to tone one of my dogs anymore. I can whistle and open the door on my side-by-side and tell them to load up, and they'll be in there sitting until somebody clears the road, and then I can drop them again and go again. And I like to hunt a lot of hedgerows and fence lines on them roads, and that way I can kind of move up and down them roads fairly quickly, and then, like I said before, I've got a lot of good friends that's got farm ground, and they let me hunt. And like today, we drove around the edge of bean fields. I don't have those great big timbers like the land between the lakes. I don't have that, but I've got some oak timbers that are, maybe a quarter mile wide. Maybe a big timber's 2 miles long through there. But it'll have bean fields or corn stubble all the way around the outside, waterways and stuff like that. And I just drive the edge of those fields as long, like I said earlier, as long as we ain't got no crops. All my farmers are very good about letting me hunt, and whether it be coon hunting or squirrel hunting, I expect my dogs to kind of be out there. Maggie, she can kind of get a little out of hand once in a while, and you'll laugh about this, especially coming from what you play with and your cray dog. I might see Maggie at 400 yards and I'm having a meltdown. She's way too far out.
Hey, I think your Maggie dog hunted farther than Cray did today.
So, yeah, she's capable of doing that if you just let her go.
Yeah.
And I got a good buddy one day. We hunted all day, and I told him, I said, I'm just going to let Maggie go today, and so be ready. And I seen her at 4 and 5 and 600 yards, you know, and just, to me, that's good, but not for me because I can't get to her, you know, and she'll stay treed forever. But I can't get those distances covered if I got to walk that far. But at the end of the day, he said, I've never seen her go like that. I said, you never seen me stop her. I said, I normally stop her and just holler at her or whatnot. I said, I don't want them over about 200 yards. If they get 200 yards, I'm fine. If they're 75 yards, I'm tickled. And, you know, so my dogs normally range, I like them in there between 75 and 200 yards. And occasionally they'll get wider. And but, you know, I think we seen Maggie at 150 or 60 yards today. And but I want them fairly close, so I got an opportunity to get to them. And like I said, I usually drive to them with my side-by-side and then get out and walk to them the last 50 or 60 yards, whatever it takes to get there. You know, I want them moving all the time. I want them to handle. They absolutely have to handle with what I'm doing. If you got a dog out there and it don't have a handle on it, at some point you got a dog that's going to get run over. Mm-hmm. And they absolutely have to handle. You know, I started a lot of young dogs here that I keep, and I got too many. And, you know, it's awful hard to hunt as many as I got and give them all their fair cut. Mm-hmm. But, you know, when I see something I like, I know what I like, and just kind of go from there. But, you know, one thing I see is a lot of guys will, and nothing wrong with it, you know, to each his own. Everybody's got their own flavor. But I see a lot of guys, and even in the coonhound world, you know, and in the beagle world, if, you know, dogs 6 months old and ain't treeing, or 7, 8 months old and not working, you know, they're ready to give up on it and move on to something. They want something instant gratification right now. I got dogs out here that's 2 and 3 years old before they ever barked at a squirrel. And I just keep taking. Patience and just determination that they will make it. And most of the time they will. Mm-hmm. And, you know, that takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, and especially when you're trying to tinker with as many as I do. So, you know, I feel guilty at times because one gets left at home when he shouldn't have. And, you know, I took this other one, and I think at one time I got a dog box off you that held, you know, 4 whole dog box.
Hey, I'd like to have that dog box back.
Yeah, well, so would everybody else. But anyway, I had that rigged up to where I could haul 8 dogs at a time. I thought, well, I'll take 2 and put them on the ground. When they tree, I'll put them 2 up and dump 2 more. And found out real quick that's a lot of work. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't. It sounded good in theory, but at the end of the day, I was just totally done with that. But anyway, but yeah, just like I said, just the patience and enjoying the dogs and enjoying the time in the woods, and I've met some amazing people, you know, whether I met them in person or met them on the internet talking back and forth, and we Facebook and chatting this and that, and there's just some really nice guys that are into the squirrel hunting, and very few guys I think squirrel hunt like I do. I'm not going to go win world hunts. You know, I'd like to think maybe I got something that could someday, just so I could say, well, I owned one of them at one time. But if I don't, I'm satisfied with that too. But I guarantee you, I've never been that I can remember where I didn't bring home some meat at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they're, like I said, most of my dogs, somebody didn't want them, or they was abused or something to that effect. And, you know, I've got some that I paid some money for, but not many. And just take them out and just be determined to persevere. So, yeah. Anyway.
It is some nice hunting up here. There's really it's conducive to being a game-rich environment just because there's so much food. I mean, it's just like everybody knows Kansas for bucks. Mm-hmm. And it's a reason for that, too, is there's food everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, beans and corn and pretty nice easy. It's fertile ground.
Yeah.
It's fertile ground.
And a lot of pecan timbers, you know, that I've got access to. Starting to see a few of the farmers coming back to milo fields this year and last year, and so that's a good thing. And you're right, we do have a lot of row crop type feed, and like I said, the pecans, and you know, we got an abundance of water, you know, so it makes for a really good time to hunt, and I enjoy it. So, and I enjoy and I'm so blessed to be able to hunt where I do, and that's all just to the good Lord. Praise Him. You know,
Amen.
it's a lot of fun. So,
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah, it's pretty good walking up here too. It's other than a ditch,
yeah,
it's pretty flat for
Yeah,
the most
it's-
part. I mean, it's not just
yeah, yeah. You
flat
ain't
as a
got
pancake,
that,
but
you ain't
it's-
got that hilly Ozark terrain.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
yeah.
If I had to do that, I'd probably take up gaming on TV or something
Yeah,
because
you-
I don't think I can do it.
Yeah, you ain't got to worry about any rocks tripping you up. You got to
No.
watch them corn stalks though.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. But yeah.
Well, I wanna back you up a little bit, and I'm gonna age you
Okay.
just a little bit. So talking about going hunting with coon hunting with your dad when you were just little. What kind of lights were you guys using back then?
Oh my! I remember we started off we bought the best of the best. Dad had the best carbide light you could find, and light that fire, you know. And he'd never let me mess with it 'cause he was afraid I'd blow myself up or something. I don't know. And I think he just didn't want me messing with his good light. We had some lanterns. I remember hunting with a lantern when I was a kid, and then the carbide light come along, and we had them. And funny story, when I was probably 7, my dad had a Walker dog and that blue dog, and the Walker dog was a kill dog. Yeah, he wasn't good for nothing other than fighting. And we treated a bobcat one night, and that's how he expired. The bobcat opened him up, but nevertheless, the dog was a big old Walker dog, didn't have no tail.
Hey,
And,
that's my style.
yeah. Good looking dog and pretty good tree dog, but like I said, as far as tracking, he wasn't much. And we went one night, and my dad had that new carbide light. You talking about that, and of course back in the day, whatever it took to get a coon, you did it. So Dad said, well, you tie the dogs back, hold old Bob. I'm gonna crawl up there and kick this coon out. I said, all right. So I wasn't very big. So I was holding Bob, and Dad got up in that tree with that, and he's so proud of that carbide light. And he knocked that thing off his head, and it went to the ground. And I mean, that dog, I don't know what all he done to that light, but it never worked again. And Dad was so mad at him. But anyway, yeah, that was the carbide light era. And then I remember they came along and they come out with wheat light. Dad bought a wheat light. Man, we was uptown then. Until then, I remember, I don't know if you were old enough to remember them or not, but they used to have a big old handheld light, had a great big old head on it and a handle, and it took I forget how many bolts, 9?
I think
bolts?
some of them were. I don't know that. I want to say those were 6-volt.
They
Or
might have
four,
been.
4-volt lights or 6-volt lights on a 4-volt bulb was
Yeah.
like the original hot light.
Yeah. Well, these things here
I think the
was,
Wheats were a 6-volt system, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% on that.
Yeah. But anyway, this was a handheld thing, and boy, it shined to the far yonder. You know, you could just shine as far as you thought you needed to go, and boy, we was uptown again. And then, like I said, then the wheat light come along, and then after the wheat light, the night light, and now they got LEDs and all this stuff, and it's changed so much, and multicolored headlights, you know, for your light, and it just, you know, I look at all this technology from when I was a kid, and you know, back in the day, I couldn't tell you how many miles I drove trying to find one of my old hounds that got lost, or I got lost, or something, and how many gallons of fuel and dollars spent looking for dogs and stuff, and then they come along with the wildlife tracking units.
old beep beep.
Yeah, and boy, beep, 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 beep. Yep, there he is over there, but you didn't know how far. You could kind of get it. If you got good enough with it, you could kind of tell if it's in that section or the next one. And nowadays, all this technology with Garmin and Dogtra and everybody, and it's just crazy. I don't know how we done it without it. And I watch these guys hunt, and I see some of these young kids, and they turn that on, and they never take their eye off of it. And I use mine a lot. I got a dash mount. You seen it today.
Mm-hmm.
And if I wanted to know what was going on, I could turn it on and pull it up. Most time I don't use it like that. I just if my dogs disappear more than just a few seconds, most likely they're under a tree somewhere. It's time to turn that on if I don't hear them and find out just exactly where they're at. But the technology's changed so much, and I've got a lot of friends. We laugh and joke about that. And how did we do that back in that? Well, and I'll be the first to tell you, I've lost a couple dogs when I was younger. You just never found them again. I don't know what the aliens got them or what.
Bigfoot.
Yeah, but they disappeared and to never be seen again. But it's sure come a long ways. And to age me, I'm 63 years old and be 64 in about 6 months. And so retired this last year, and I watched my granddad work long enough to killed him. He was a workaholic. I thought, I'd like to enjoy some of this life a little more than just working until I'm ready to go home. And so I got a chance to retire, and I did. And I really think it's probably been the best job I've ever had.
Yep.
I'm busier now than I've ever been, but it's good. And so it allows me to do all this hunting and carrying on like I do. And it's just, but yeah, that you wanted to age me, there you go, you got it.
Yep. Yeah, speaking of your retirement, looks like you've been catching quite a few fish through the summer.
I've been on a few. We've caught some crappie and some flatheads, and we went set lines in the river, and we've caught a few 40s and a couple of 50s, and everybody thinks that's a big deal, but they're not as good at eating as them 12, 14-pound blues, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, well, I've been very fortunate. Got a pretty good load of fish in the freezer to last the winter. And the wife, she's been driving me crazy to get in the deer woods. And I keep telling her it's too warm yet. But, we don't we live off of fish. We live off of deer. And I buy some chicken. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty well what we survive on. I haven't bought beef in 3 years. And the prices, maybe I'm just hard-headed that way, but I just refuse to think that that's something I need to spend that much money on. Mm-hmm. And so, we kill 2 or 3 deer every year and process them here at home and package them, and and I enjoy it. And I can't say I like deer hunting, but I sure like deer eating. Mm-hmm. The wife, now she likes the deer hunting, but anyway, so yeah.
Yeah, I've been known to trash on a deer a little bit here and there, and I'm not too mad at them. I grew up pretty mad at them, but I'm just I'm generally not that mad at them anymore. I like to go out a little bit, but I'm about to the point where I just wait till it's good and right. I like to. I've got a pretty good system worked out. I spend enough time squirrel hunting and walking, mm-hmm. and I just scout.
Yeah.
On all my squirrel hunting spots, and then once the sign starts getting right and the wind gets right and everything's right, you just go make that one set, and it usually works out pretty good.
Yep, you're good to go. You know where they're coming from and going to, and it can all be wrapped up in about 2 days by the time you get done taking your game and processing and getting ready for the freezer. And yeah, that's good stuff. I remember, everybody talk about all the wild game I eat. I got a buddy that he was just flabbergasted that we don't buy beef, and growing up as a kid, we lived off a lot of wild game, and I remember growing up as a kid, ate a lot of coon, and and I can't tell you I'm a fan of coon.
Well, how would they fix it for you?
Well, Dad put it in a crock pot,
Yeah.
And he'd crock pot it, and then he'd strip the meat, and then he'd put barbecue sauce in it, and we'd make barbecued sandwiches and things like that. But I just I grew up thinking that we ate them, because Dad liked them. Well, as I got older, I realized that we didn't eat them because we liked them. We ate them because that's just how poor we was. We didn't have nothing else to eat, and we lived off of wild game. And so looking back, and I look today and how fortunate I am today and how far we've come, and thank goodness I don't have to eat coon no more. But,
Yeah. Well, tell me about your bird dogs you had a little bit.
Well, I got into bird dogs when I was just a kid. First dog I ever had was a little Brittany Spaniel, and I don't know if that dog ever pointed quail, but sure pointed every tortoise that there was out there in the field. And I don't remember. I gave that one away to somebody, and I ended up later in life. I kind of got into the setter dogs, English setters and stuff, and I really liked them. Other than up here where I hunt, you got a lot of cuckaburs, so that was kind of a mess. But I started training bird dogs and stuff, and had a really nice dog, and my uncle had a really nice dog, and so anyhow, hunted for several years and raised a few bird dogs for some guys and stuff, and then of course as the quail kind of depleted, I got out of that because to me, if I can't go out and find the game that I'm hunting for, then ain't no sense continuing chasing that game. And so anyway, after several years, I got rid of all the bird dogs, and the last one passed away, and this, that, and the other. And I still got guys call me up and reminiscing about a dog they might have bought. And I had a buddy call me up and here a while back wanted to go have lunch. I hadn't seen him probably 15 years, and he said, "You got any more of them bird dogs?" I said, "No, I got out of that years ago, Mark." And he said, "Man, old Red," said, "he passed away," and he said, "I ain't never had a dog like him." I said, "Well, yeah, he wasn't bad." And so he wanted me to find him another one. I said, "Mark, I wouldn't even know where to look." I said, "That's kind of like hunting hen's teeth for me." I said, "Almost non-existent." And I said, but I'd talk around to a few guys, and so I did. And he finally come up with a dog, so I hope he's doing well with it. But with the amount of birds we got, unless you go to a preserve or something where they're putting them out, it's pretty tough. I see a few birds around when I'm out hunting, but not like I used to when I was young. And then I got into, like I said, I've always had a beagle or two growing up, and I loved listening to them beagles, noisy rascals. And I got into the beagles and went down into Oklahoma and bought a beagle. And a funny story about it. A gentleman, he's passed on now. He's a really good friend of mine. We became great friends. But a gentleman by the name of Ed Reynolds. And I was talking to Ed one time, and he said, "Well, I got several beagles." And he said, "You can come down and pick you one out. $150 any dog you want." And $150 to me at that time was a pretty good chunk of change. And you got to think, I was driving I think it was a 69 Ford Galaxy four-door back and forth to work. And the wife had a Pontiac that the transmission was out of, so she went in reverse everywhere she went in town. That ain't no joke. To this day, I'm telling you, she'd go uptown 4 or 5 blocks and have to back that car up to the post office to get up there. And we didn't have no money, and I decided I'd go down there. So we went down there and we got on some four-wheelers, and he began to hollering at dogs, and they come out of every building and every nook and corner. I'd never seen so many beagles. And we went hunting, and we hunted for a while in these big open meadows just south of Miami down there. And he said, "Well, what do you think?" I said, "You got a little brown dog." I said, "I kind of like what I'm seeing out of him." He said, and he always had a big old wad of tobacco in his jaw. Loved that guy. He reached over and he spit. Kind of reminded you of that Josie Wells movie. And he said, "Just watch him, Ken. You tell me what you think at the end of the day." I said, "All right." So I kept watching him. I watched that dog. Excuse me. And I noticed he was a cheating son of a gun. And them other dogs would get out there and be moving the track, and he'd run and get ahead of him, and then he couldn't hold it. And he'd just fall back. then he'd cheat and get ahead again. So he was out, by about, I don't know, 10 o'clock in the morning. I done figured out he wasn't what I wanted. And but I noticed he had a blue tick, and I've always had a weakness for blue dogs. And he was out front most all the time. Made some nice clean checks, come out of them, good mouth, run hard, run with his head in the air. And I was liking him. And so we got back to the house and that afternoon, and it said, "What do you think about the brown dog?" I said, "Oh, I guess he's all right." He goes, "No, really." He said, "What do you think about him?" He said, "Are you interested in him?" I said, "No." I said, "I don't believe I'm interested in him." I said, "He's okay." And he goes, "Ken," he said, "they're all for sale." And he said, "You ain't going to hurt my feelings." He said, "I want to know what you seen out there." I said, "I seen a dog that was cheating like crazy. It couldn't hold a track for nothing." I said, "I wouldn't own him." And he just laughed. He thought that was the funniest thing. He said, "You're exactly right." He said, "Did you see something you did like?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "You got a blue male with a kind of a tan head?" And I said, "He's out front about 99% of the time." And I said, "Done a good job." He said, "Buddy," he said, "you picked out the best dog I had on my place." And I said, "Well, he's nice." I said, "But I don't suppose he's for sale." He said, "They're all for sale." I said, "Well, what do you want for him?" I told you 150. I like tore the threads off my pocket trying to get my money out. And like I said, $150 back then was a lot of money for me. And I bought that dog, brought him home, and I hunted him. And I was hunting him one day and been running rabbit by himself for quite a while. And pretty soon he just shut up. And here he come. He's carrying this old dead rabbit. And old rabbit was all stiffened out and kind of looked like he had rigor mortis. And I took the rabbit away from him and I threw it over in the weeds, and I was plumb disgusted. That dog run that rabbit that hard and then brought me a dead rabbit that was obviously dead for a while. And so I left the place I was hunting. I threw the rabbit over in the ditch. And I called Ed and I told him what had happened. And he said, "Where's that rabbit at now?" I said, "Well, it's back there at the edge of the cemetery where I throwed it." And he said, "Go back and get that rabbit." And he said, "Peel him open and see if he ain't warm inside." So I did. And lo and behold, he was. But he wasn't bloody or nothing. I mean, it was weird. And I'd never seen nothing like it. I said, "Yeah, he's warm." He said, "Ken, you got you a good dog here." He said, "He run that rabbit to lactic." Well, I didn't know what lactic was. I guess when they run enough, their little heart gets going enough, and they build up lactic acid, and they just stretch out and die, and they're stiffer than a board.
Never heard of that one.
Yeah, and he could run one down like that. So ended up taking him to a field trial, and really the only thing that I ever done field trialing with was rabbit dogs. I kind of understood the mechanics of them. Like I said, these squirrel dogs, I learn something every day. I'm still learning. I tell you right now, I don't know nothing. But anyway, I took him to his first hunt, and at the end of the day, I ran against a female, and in the final round, and got done, and I seen him cheat one place. He come into a briar patch and run out to a different direction and no rabbit and just bugling all the way like he's burning it up. And the little female followed him out there, and as soon as she got out there 40, 50 feet, he shut up and went back in, picked up track, went clear over the hill and started again. And to get away from her, and I thought, well, that's a cheating rascal. But I didn't say nothing. Well, the judges seen that. So when we got back, they told about the second place dog, and she had 225 plus points. Well, I'm beat, And they said, and Kenny's dog said, Kenny said, your dog's got 25 minus points and 450 plus points. And I won that hunt with that dog. $150 dog, not registered. Had to register him and everything in the ARHA, I believe it was, and I don't know what all. But anyway, I went on to hunt that dog a lot and done very well with him and enjoyed him. But the judge took me off to the side after the whole thing was over and explained to me where that 25 minus come in. And I told him exactly where he minused him at. And he said, yeah, you seen that too then? I said, oh yeah, I seen him lead her out there on a big joyride and then went back and run rabbit. And But anyway, like I said, I got into the beagles, and I've always had beagles, and still got half ownership in one with one of my best friends from high school, and he thinks he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I got out of that because, again, we don't have a lot of rabbits here. We got a lot of predation. Our state will not put a season on rabbits, and they won't. The limit is unreal. I think it's 5 or so rabbits a day. I got in on a Zoom meeting with the commissioners and was trying to get them to at least give us a season and whatnot. And the best that they could do was up the bag limit from 10 a day to 20 a day. And it's hard to start a rabbit around here now. They're doing better. They're coming back now. But between the pressure from here, we got a few guys that hunt around here, out-of-state pressure. I see trucks from Kentucky and Louisiana and Ohio and Michigan. I mean, they come here to hunt, and that's good. I don't have a problem with the guys coming and hunting. They pay their money. They play their game and stuff. But it made it hard for me to justify keeping 6, 7 beagles when I could go dump 3 or 4 places before I'd get a rabbit started. So that kind of negated that. And then I started migrating toward the squirrel hunting, and I fell in love with squirrel hunting. It's such a rush. So that's where we're at today, anyhow.
Yeah. Well, Kenny, we're getting close to our hour time frame.
There you go.
I've sure enjoyed the conversation and hunting. You got anything else you want to talk about before we get off here? No more stories you had pinned back or nothing?
Not that I can recall. I'm sure there's more stories I could tell you, but I could bore you all night with them. So it's kind of like Granddad told me when I was a kid growing up. He said, if you can't dazzle them with your brilliance, at least baffle them with your bull. And I think I've got her covered.
Oh, well, I think everybody listening's going to enjoy this. It's been a good conversation.
Well, good. I appreciate you thinking enough of me to give me an opportunity to get on here and kind of talk about it. I really didn't think I got much to say. Maybe, if somebody can pick something up out of this. But, if you're kind of getting at the golden years, they brag about the golden years. And trust me, young'un, there ain't nothing golden about these years. Everything hurts and aches. But if you think you're done, try that road hunting. Get you a good young squirrel dog. Get you a dog and start hunting. Don't give up too quick. Put the time in and, knock a few squirrels out. Spend some time working, get to know your dog. And for goodness sakes, I think my wife told you earlier, one of the biggest things I see people make mistakes, especially I think in the feist world, they don't spend enough time socializing dogs. I've had several that the dogs are just terrified of people. And spend some time with them. Don't just put them in a dog pen and feed them once a day and think you've done your part, because that's not your part. Your part is to spend time with them, handle them, pet them, get them to come to you, get them to love you. I can't stress socialization enough. I just can't. So for what it's worth, that's what I know. And that probably fit in a thimble, buddy.
All right. Well, Kenny, once again, thank you. And everybody else listening, take care and keep wearing out that boot leather.
You betcha. God bless you all.
I just want to give everyone that's listening a sincere thank you. Getting this podcast going has been a project. I really hope you're enjoying it, and if you don't mind, give the show a good rating and review wherever you're listening to it at, or share it on your social media to help get some traction. I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to your feedback.